Hello wonderful people, it's Genevieve and my goal here on this channel is to teach you all about illustration and design. And I've been getting a lot of questions on my videos recently, on Instagram, on Facebook, that were more about me and about the channel, about my journey, about illustration and art in general. So I thought, you know what, with the channel being almost 1 year old already, I think it's time for a Q&A. So that's exactly what we're going to do in this video here. I got all of your questions from Instagram, Facebook, Patreon, everywhere. I have them on my iPad in front of me and we're just gonna go through them. The first question that I got that actually made me think to do a Q&A was, how do you pronounce your full name? And that's from a regular on the channel which asked me what my full name was, and it is a French name. I'll spread it out on the screen right here. Basically you pronounce it Genevieve whiiile. I like to just say Genevieve on the channel here because I know a lot of people are probably not French speaking people, and I think it's just a little bit easier. But honestly, if you want to call me Genevieve, I'll be happy with that. If you want to call me Jen, whatever, I'm really not fussy about my name. But that is the correct pronunciation of my name, Genevieve whiiile. I am 25 and I come from the French part of Canada, which explains my French name and also my French accent. I really learned to speak English fairly recently, to be honest. When I was a kid, we really did not learn a lot of English in school. I mostly learned from video games like Animal Crossing, and recently I learned to kind of get more comfortable with speaking English and like listening to English because my partner is actually from Australia. So I had to be comfortable with speaking English, otherwise we just would not be able to communicate. So that's why sometimes you might hear me say words strangely. It's because it's not my native language. I live with my rabbit. A lot of you were asking or commenting saying that my rabbit is really cute. I would agree with you 100%. He is 8. And I got him the first day I moved in this apartment that I'm in right now. And he just plays loose throughout the day. He just runs around and it's really nice. He doesn't, mess up anything. He just gives me little kisses like you can see right now. And his name is Monsieur Lapin, which is French for Mr. Rabbit, honestly. People were also asking what did I study, kind of what is my background. I actually have 2 degrees because here in Quebec we're really lucky. Education is fairly affordable. So I have a graphic design degree, and then after my graphic design degree I went on to get a business degree with a focus on entrepreneurship and marketing. I wanted to make sure that I had a lot of knowledge that I could apply in different work sectors. And for me that was what business was. You learn so many skills that are applicable in literally every single thing that you do, and I feel like I got so much out of this degree. It is definitely not for everyone though, so I'm not saying if you want to be an artist you need to have a business degree, but I definitely think that it is something that you could have as an edge compared to other artists. I think a lot of artists have these really strong creative side. At least you definitely need to have a strong creative side if you want to be an artist for your career. But if you also have like the more math, numbers, money, strategy side, you kind of have, a little advantage over other creative people, I think. Yeah, so I kind of went and did my graphic design degree and went to intern at a music festival that we have here in Canada as the graphic designer. They did not have any graphic designer, although they are the biggest music festival in Canada. So I had a lot of things to do and I learned so much. I was 19 when I started there. And while I was working there, I did my business degree online, like I was saying. So that was really insanely cool. I got to meet a lot of awesome musicians, including my partner that I am currently engaged to. He's Australian, he plays guitar, and I met them at the festival when I was an intern there. So that's a story for another video. But although I kind of built this creative side of me and got to meet a lot of people, I realized that I could not do graphic design for my entire life. I would go crazy doing it. I started fairly young. When I said I interned at that festival at 19, I did start doing graphic design as just kind of a like a hired project by project person by the time I was 13. So I started really, really young. And by the time I was in my, early mid-20s, I'm gonna say that like I'm old now. Early in my 20s, I got really, really burnt out by it because the analogy I always use is, if you go to a restaurant, a good restaurant with, a trained chef, you won't go in the back of the kitchen and say,
"Oh, can you put some ranch and ketchup on my brownies?"
No, you're gonna trust that the chef that has been trained is going to give you what is best with the ingredients that works together, and he has studied and knows how to deliver a good product. But I feel like graphic design is the one discipline where for some reason, people feel just comfortable telling you, oh, put that logo here, make it bigger, take that font and make it big, bold, yellow letters, which I understand, it's personal preference, but it got to a point where I was so disheartened with just kind of doing things that I didn't believe in anymore. I just could not do it. But I kept trying because, I was really grateful to have this opportunity to be self-employed, because at one point I left the festival, I forgot to say that. But yeah, being self-employed and working with a bunch of clients doing some work that was somewhat creative. But at one point, 2020, and a lot of the clients I was working with were kind of sports related. So they had to close, for example, a yoga studio. They had to close because of the pandemic. Here in Quebec, we had massive lockdowns, which are just starting to be lifted. So most of my clients from one day to the other had to close, which means I had no more graphic design to do. And at that point, I was just like, okay, that's life telling me you need to get out and do something that you don't start crying whenever you think about it, And for me, that was children's books. I had been drawing and creating illustrations forever, really. I was like, okay, that's my call to go and do it for a living. And that kind of touches a bunch of questions that I've been getting, which was like, when did you start creating illustrations? How did you start? And all of that. So I'll kind of group all these questions in one big question. I gave myself 1 year to be able to do that full time, which is absolutely crazy because children's book illustration is insanely difficult to get started in. It's so competitive. I just decided that I was going to do it, and I'm not kind of person that just starts working at 7 in the morning and stops at 11 and do that 7 days a week. So for me, when I decide that I do something, I just do it. And I'm going to do a video about how to become a children's book illustrator, because otherwise this one is going to be like a 2-hour video, and I think it's already pretty much long enough as it is. But I think the best tip that I have is know your worth, which I know might sound crazy, but the one mistake that I did when I was trying to get started was wanting to take any single project that would be offered to me, although sometimes it would be paid, like literally it would come up to like an hour, $1 an hour, which makes absolutely no sense. If you want that to be your career, you need it to be something you can live off of. You need to make money off of it. You need to be realistic in the sense that yes, maybe that is something that you're really passionate with, but in order to make it a career, it needs to be something that you make money of. And for that, you need to be able to find clients that are willing to pay. If you can't find people that are willing to pay, well, maybe it's a sign that you need to either practice more or get out of your comfort zone a little bit more. So again, I'll do a video all about it, giving you a bunch of tips, because it is possible. But I think my biggest tip is that get out of your comfort zone, know your worth, and be aware that it's going to be a long road, but it is a interesting one. So another question that I've got quite often was, what is your job? Are you a full-time artist? How did you start YouTube? Is YouTube your career? Are you mostly a children's book illustrator? And the balance of all of that is, I don't really know right now. I'm definitely a full-time artist, but not in a sense of like full-time job, 9 to 5, more in the sense of full-time every single day of the week, from the moment I wake to the moment I go to bed. Because like I was saying earlier, it's really hard to make a living off of arts. But I am full-time right now. I don't have another job anywhere else. I just work for myself. And I got started on YouTube mostly because I wanted to make brushes. I have Procreate brushes. And YouTube, it does take a long time before you can monetize your videos on YouTube. So honestly, YouTube right now, I would not be able to make a living off of that, but I am able to make a living off of the brushes. So I'm incredibly grateful for that. And someone was asking, how did you went from 500 subscribers to, well, right now we're at, 21,000. I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's mostly with just being very consistent and being genuine and just really caring for all you guys, because for me, I started YouTube not as a way to make money. I started just because I thought it would be fun and because it was a way for me to connect during the middle of quarantine and lockdown when I was stuck in my apartment. Because my rabbit, he's really nice, he's really cute, but he's not super talkative. So having this channel was a really cool way to connect, and I'd like to think at least that that's what people feel when they watch the video is that connection and that kind of sense of community. I get a lot of comments of people saying you're so underrated, and for me it's like I can't even believe that one person that is not my partner or my mom are watching my videos. I'm just so grateful and still have to pinch myself every single day that I've even built something. So I know that's a bad explanation to that question, but it's pretty much the best one I have so far. I'm not like a growth hacker or anything. I'm just someone that likes to draw, and I think people like to see that. So another question that I got really crazy often was, how do you find motivation to draw? How do you stay motivated? How do you get through art blocks? My answer for that is you don't. I think coming from a design background where I was hired to do designs every single day for a business or for clients, they were having deadlines, they were expecting me to deliver the product on time. They didn't care, if I was inspired, if I was motivated, if I had an art block or whatever. They just cared that, they would get an email with the result by the time that was set in the calendar. I'm really, really grateful I got this experience, this work experience, because I got to learn that motivation is not something that's just going to fall on you. You need to create an environment that is conducive to being motivated, and also you need to be able to be okay with creating when you are not motivated. That's a mistake that a lot of people might be making, is just kind of waiting to be motivated to start, where I think it's kind of the other way around. Start, and then the motivation will come, and then the inspiration will come. And I'm not saying it's always going to come. Sometimes it's a drag. Sometimes you're just not in the mood that day, and that's fine. But just try. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. There's another day tomorrow, and it's probably gonna happen that day. And if it doesn't, that's fine as well. If you have little routines that kind of help you get in the mood, for me it's getting a cup of tea, petting my rabbit, looking at my plants, some little routine that you can get into, listen to music, to kind of get in that flow. That can be really helpful, but still, just doing it is the best way, honestly. Another question that I got super often, which I will do a whole other video about it because it's a big, big question. It's, how do you find your style? Or how long did it take you to find your style? Like, I really like your style, how can I find mine? I think the style is not something you find. I think a style it's kind of like an accent. When you speak, you don't really choose the accent. You can imitate an accent for like, I don't know, Italian or something like that. But your own natural accent is just something that is yours. And I think it's the same with art. You know, the more you draw, the more you paint, the more you play an instrument, your art style is going to shine. But you need to practice, and it takes time. Like, I never consciously sat down one day being like, okay, I need to find my style. I just drew a whole lot of pictures, and eventually they started kind of looking like they were all drawn by me. But yeah, I'll do a whole video about style, but I think it's more of a journey than a destination, in the sense that your style is going to evolve with you along with your skills, and it's kind of a process. And the last few questions that I got, I'm going to do some sort of a lightning round, and I got them on my little paper pad here. So let's go. If I had to pick a medium other than an iPad, what would it be? Well, I started drawing mostly with coloring pencil and graphing pencil on paper, and that's really my first love, so no doubt about it, I would go back to pencil and paper in a heartbeat. And if you have my brushes that I created for Procreate, you can definitely feel that was my first love, because the brushes feel super traditional, and that's because I personally could not stand drawing on the iPad because it felt too digital, so I had to create brushes to make it feel more like the real deal. Do I have a Patreon and a Facebook group? I do have a Patreon. I will link it right here and in the description, annotations everywhere. But I don't have a Facebook group just yet. I know a lot of people have been requesting it so that they can, you know, share their creations and ask questions. But right now I'm kind of just struggling keeping up with the YouTube channel because it's growing so fast, which is great. But I want to make sure that when I do create a Facebook group, it's not just like an afterthought, it's actually a good thing. Do I play a music instrument, and what is my favorite music instrument? And my favorite musical instrument, honestly, to play is the piano, but to listen, it might be the guitar. And that might just be because I'm biased. Like I was saying earlier in the video, my partner plays guitar, so that might be why, but yeah. And final question, my favorite food. Is chocolate a food? Yeah, like it's edible, so it's a food, right? It's not a meal, but yeah, chocolate. If I had to pick a meal, I don't know, chocolate. So hopefully that answered most of your questions. I did get a few comments with ideas for, or asking me when I was going to do specific tutorials. Whenever you ask me to create a specific tutorial, I always add it on my idea list. I have a pretty big list by now, as you can imagine. So those comments I definitely read, and I will definitely address them at one point. And I'm just going to say, one of the requests that I've been getting a lot recently is to create a tutorial for, you know, backgrounds. So full children's book illustrations. And I am working on something, I promise. It's just really hard to figure out how to present that content because it is a lot, you know, explaining how to draw a cat or how to draw a monster relief. It's fairly easy, but teaching you how to draw full-on children's book illustrations, it's a lot more. So I'm working on a course for that. I'm going to keep you posted, but it's probably going to take a little bit of time. But I promise I saw your comments, and I will definitely do it because it's something that I think is going to be a whole lot of fun to do. And if you have any other questions for me, you can always write them down in the comments. And I forgot the passwords for this video. Let's just go with illustration. So if you've watched this far in the video, go ahead and comment the word illustration. And with that, I will see you soon.